You're muted.
I'm going live and I'm muted, so let's unmute myself. Hello. It looks like we are officially live. All right. Welcome to this week's Cosmic Conversation. I am Stacey Harder with my mom, Dr. Heather Harder. You can see her face. Hello. Welcome. We join every Thursday. You're welcome to join us on Zoom if you'd like. Our Zoom is 428-733-2. I don't know why it keeps going to her screen, but here you go. 428-733-2. That is our call for Cosmic Conversations. If you would like to join us, feel free. We meet here every Zoom. If you do, what's up, Esme and Maper? If you want to join us, feel free. If you're on Instagram, we do kind of get cut off now at an hour, and sometimes we come back, sometimes we don't. And if you're on YouTube, feel free to like, subscribe, and share, and join us in the conversation as well. This is a place that I like to get together to talk about whatever's going on. Hello. So I'm gonna let Heather talk while I start doing some of the techie stuff. But welcome. You're muted, Mom.
I did my best to join Instagram just because I can see the conversation, and you're frozen on Instagram. So I don't know if that's me or if that's everybody, but just for your information.
Okay.
Hello and welcome. What?
My end, it looks good. It's like normal.
Okay. Mine isn't, but it's okay. Anyway, welcome to July 29th, 2021. This year is going by so incredibly quickly. Lots of exciting things going on, and we're here to talk about the issues that you're facing, look for clarification, look for truth, and being able to enjoy the journey, because it really is the journey. It's why we came to this planet. It's the exciting roller coaster that's going on in the universe, and we have lots from all around the galaxies and galaxies beyond galaxies here watching our progress. This is the greatest show in town. I grew up in a relatively small town, and the joke was that what do you do on Saturday night is you sit around and watch the paint dry. And, for a while, that was sort of the motto of the planet. Life was pretty easygoing. Now it's not. Exciting things going on at all different levels in all different places. And the greatest excitement is going on within each of us as we begin to evolve into our God self, our divine expression, made manifest in this physical world of imperfections. It's an incredible experience. First thing we do is we always ask to know truth. We ask for protection. We ask for guidance. Lots of things going on the planet, as I said. So we want to be able to always ask for guidance and protection, because that's our safety net. And then truth is really what we're here for. If we get distracted by misconceptions, misinformation, slight variations on truth, then we'll never really complete our journey. And so being able to ask for and follow is exceedingly important. How do you do it? Any way you want. It's not magic, it's intention. So as I say that, it's done for me. You can set affirmations, you can visualize it, you can affirm it for yourself, you can just state it as a statement of fact that you are always protected and guided and shown the truth, and that which is not truth just falls away. However you want to do it works. And that's stage one. I'm going to pause before we go into the second phase and see if anybody has anything they want to say or share. And Stacey, you are representing the throngs of people out there on the internet. If there's...
Well, As of right now, we don't have any questions, but just hello. So if you have questions, feel free.
Okay. I just like to put that pause out there and create the space for questions or comments, because if it's in your head, on your head, then when you go into the light work, it stays on your head. So you want to get it off. So we're totally in the present moment when we're doing the light work. So you can join in, Stacy, if anything comes up, and then let's move into the light work. As most of you may know, that light is an energy form. We have all kinds of energies doing all kinds of things. The light, love, God, are all three names of the same very high energy source. So when we play in the light, when we send God's blessing, when we do that kind of energy, we send love. They're all very much a high energy, and that's what we're putting into the universe. That's the ripple that we're creating, and those are very much the tools that will be used to transform the planet into a planet of love, into a planet of oneness, into a planet of unity. So as you play, know that it doesn't seem like much because we're just playing in our imagination. But in our imagination is the use of that energy that really does create the transformation of the planet. And every day, in every way, in every breath you take, you are either adding and speeding up the transformation, or you're distracting from it and slowing it down. Thoughts, energy, words of love and light, and joy and happiness and harmony accelerate the energy in the planet. Thoughts of anger, control, fear, judgment, those slow down the energy and literally put that sort of toxic energy into the universe as well. Being human, we all have those moments when we are less than our ideal, but do take the time after you've experienced one of those episodes to clear the energy and to bring that light and love back into the same process. And so I'm seeing your note, Jennifer. We'll talk about that when we're done. What?
I was just going to say that there is a comment. I can say emotions are all over the place lately. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back and talk about that. That'll be our kickoff for when we get through that, because emotions are very important, and we'll talk about that. As you play in the energy, just make yourself comfortable and recognize that you are all powerful. And when you move into your imagination, imagination is the place of the manifestation of anything and everything on the planet. So it's very important that you recognize what an amazing place of power that imagination is. As Einstein said, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. And so you can, in your imagination, you can create anything. And so you always want to be creating that which you want to experience. So if you will, just imagine your happy place, your place of center, your place of joy, where you feel most comfortable, most at peace, most empowered. For me, it's a beach. So I have my center that looks like a beach. You can have it look like anything. I've had people have it look like their living room or their dining room or wherever they feel most comfortable. It isn't important the image you create around it, it's what you bring to it. And so if you will, just imagine that center. When you go to center, when you are centered, you are most in alignment with your divine forces. You're connecting with all that is and all that you are. It's where you connect with the highest heavenly energies and the most earthly energies of this planet. I see it like a tube, a pillar of light where you step into the pillar and you are connected to the heavenly energies, and that's going down into the earth energies, and you're grounding them into the planet. When when we're told that we are going to bring heaven to earth, that's exactly what we're doing energetically when we're bringing this heavenly energy into the planet. It's exceedingly powerful. You are exceedingly powerful. So just imagine being in this light pillar and this light coming down to you and through you into the earth, and the earth being so thrilled with this energy, it sends it back up to you and through you into the heavens. You are a little exchange of energy going on all the time. With every breath you take, with every step you make, you are connecting heaven to earth. You are the ambassador of the divine. You are here to help bring peace and love and harmony to this planet. And so just let this energy exchange take place for just a minute. And then imagine sending this light and love into the earth, sending it around the globe, filling every cell in, on, and around this planet with your love, with our combined love, with this heavenly love, with this unearthly love. Let it fill every vacancy, every void, every space in this planet. Every mine, every shaft. Just fill it with love. Right now, the earth is very, very restless. If you've been watching the news, you see the earthquakes and the tornadoes and the weather extremes. All of those tell you the earth is having a challenging time. So love her. I'm told that all the planets are feminine because they herald in the act of creation. Every planet is about creating an environment where others can grow. And that gives her a feminine quality. Our Mother Earth is very important to who we are and what we do. And then send this love and light out into the atmosphere and surround this planet with your love and light. The atmosphere is a very important protective layer. Just as your skin is a protective layer to your body, it's very important to your overall health, and so is the atmosphere. So just love it. And we have multitudes of heavenly helpers. Let them join us in this love. And then, as you mentioned, the weather patterns are how the earth finds her balance. You will always see the weather patterns in the place of the most distressed on the planet. The more the earth is out of balance in an area, the more likely she will have extreme weather in that area. And you only need to follow the news to hear about the floods and the tornadoes and the earthquakes and all the things going on the planet. The earth is in really, really big state of distress. So love them and love all the weather patterns. It's our job. When Jesus was in the boat and quieted the storm, he did it through his love. Because when you add love to that, then the distress goes away. You no longer need the storm. You just love it. Now, on this planet, we have people who've learned how to manipulate the weather, create storms, alter, diminish, or embellish storms that are occurring naturally. So what I'd like you to do is just to love those who would manipulate the weather for their own agenda. Just imagine them having strings to the weather patterns and you loving them. They do it out of fear. They do it out of a sense of control. They do it in order to stop the progress of the planet. And our job is to love them. They cannot stop the progress, but they can manipulate it. So love them. And then also, I would love you just to be very perceptive right now, be really open. And I want you will call in a natural storm. Just let this natural storm energy reside in your solar plexus. Feel what it feels like. A natural storm made by Earth herself through her changing conditions. Whether it be a rainstorm, whether it be a tornado, just feel what it feels like when it's naturally made. Then we're going to clear out the energy. And now I'm going to call in the same storm that has been man-made, synthetically created for manipulating this planet. Just let it come into your solar plexus. You are protected, you're guided. It cannot hurt you, but I want you to feel it. Feel the synthetic storm. Notice how your body reacts to it. And then if you could imagine just drinking this huge cosmic concoction that just calms the storm, neutralizes it, releases it, and let it go back into its inert state. So that your body is back in its perfect condition. Whenever you hear the storm, whenever you feel a weather pattern, take just a minute and bring it into you and feel what it feels like. And you will determine whether it's nature-made or man-made. And then you treat it accordingly. And then send love and light now out into all of your divine team. You have angels and guides and helpers and all kinds of beings who support you and your journey on in the other realms. Let's just take this moment of gratitude to love them, to acknowledge what they do for you and to you. And just feel how they feel. On this planet, we have a collective energy that each of us have contributed to. We call it the collective consciousness. Everyone who's ever been on this planet or ever will be on this planet has made a deposit into this repository. This collective consciousness affects everyone, and everyone is affecting the collective consciousness. It is the force that ties us all together. Just imagine pouring the purest, most profound love into this formless ethers. And let that affect everyone on the planet. When love is the guiding force, it'll be a different planet. It'll be a different experience on this planet. So just pour unconditional love into this collective consciousness. And on this planet, there are a lot of influencers. They're in business, they're in organizations, they're in broadcast, they're in print media, they're on the internet. These influencers do their best to influence you and the decisions you make, whether it's to buy a product, whether it's to vote their way, whether it's to go along with their journey. These influencers can be working for the greater good, and therefore part of the divine team, or they can be working for their a personal agenda, whether it's monetary or some other nefarious goal. But love them. You treat them all the same and just love them. Those that are working for the greatest good will be empowered with your love. Those who are working for their own personal agenda will be distracted by your love. But you only send love because it's the right thing to do, not to manipulate, to control, or to change their message. You only just want to love them because it is the divinely perfect right action. Just love them. All of the influencers. And we have people who can make decisions that determine the outcomes of our experiences in our lives. They are making decisions for others, including us, whether they're politicians that we've sent to office, locally or state or nationally or even internationally, or whether they're appointed. They're making decisions that determine the state of this planet, the state of our lives, the state of our sovereignty, state of our freedom. I want you to love all of them, regardless of whether they wear a donkey or an elephant on their lapel. We want to love them. Whether they're in this country or any country around the world, we want to love them. So just imagine creating this wonderful little bubble of love around them. And we'll just ask the angels to keep the love flowing. Now, as this country moves to greater sovereignty, greater freedom, we influence the world to do so as well. And we are being manipulated and controlled with using various means. And therefore, there are humans that are acting out, they're protesting, they're demonstrating, they're gathering together to let their voices be heard. Just imagine these gatherings of hundreds and thousands of people in different countries around the planet. Just imagine them, some working for greater good, again, some working for personal agenda. Just imagine raining your unconditional love on all of them, on the organizers, on the demonstrators, on those that are affected by these demonstrations. Just love them. Every country, love the leaders, love the influencers, love those who are rebelling against it. We have tools that are being used to manipulate humanity, whether it be a medical tool, like the V's, the jabs, or whether it's a virus, or whether it's a product or a salary. You know, if you want this job, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. But we're being manipulated by various things. I want you to love all of them. Let them all become illuminated so you can see through the manipulation to truth. Truth is extremely important. When you've seen the truth, when you know the truth, you cannot be controlled. And that's really what we want. Once you awaken to truth, you know, and you know that you know, and no one and no thing can convince you otherwise. And that's really why you're here. And imagine those leaders around the planet who are leading the resistance, leading the effort to awaken people, and just love them. Show your gratitude for them. Ask your team to help empower them in whatever way that's necessary, that's important for the planet. And you have a role in this process. Ask your team to help give you the courage, the wisdom, the knowledge to do that which you came to do, to say that which needs to be said, to take action as the action is called for. Know that you're not acting for yourself, you're acting for the greater good. And we can find joy in that. Like a game of football when you got these big guys coming at you and you're trying to get your little pointed ball over the goals. It's just a game, but played out in a very big arena. But it's with that same joy and exhilaration that we came to this planet to do our part, to be an active player on the field of life. So as you're sitting there, imagine that every muscle in your body becomes stronger, more empowered. Imagine that your heart becomes more sensitive, more aware, more discerning. Imagine that your mind becomes sharper and clearer, and that you always know divine right action. And that you have a magic clock that always gives you all the time that you need to get everything done. No stress, no rush, but everything happens in divine, perfect time. You always have the resources and the backup that you need. And you know that you always have the resources and the backup you need. It gives you this sense of invincible. And with a sense of gratitude, we open ourselves up to receive that energy, letting every cell in our body become awakened, become balanced, become healed, and any contamination we've been exposed to is neutralized. That all the cooties that we've been exposed just melt and run away into the earth where it's transformed. And that anything we need to be aware of, we are. And we're going to sit for a few minutes and just let our body, our mind, and our soul commune with us, the totality of us. And anyone and anything that has something that they want you to be aware of, you hear, you're open to receive. Sometimes we're so busy, we don't have time to just sit and listen. This is your time to sit and listen. Take a deep breath. As you breathe in the love of the universe. As you breathe out all of the lower energies, the toxins, the toxic thoughts that you may have had. Just let them go. They're not important. Breathe in. Breathe out. Feel how peace, love, harmony feel in your body. And when you're ready, just open your eyes and come back to the here and now. Know that you've put this magical ripple into the planet of pure light, pure love, pure harmony that will touch every human being, every creature residing in, on, and around this planet. Every tree, every rock, every creature. Energy has no limits. It has no bounds. It just goes on and on and on. So when you're ready, come back to the here and now, feeling rejuvenated, recharged, refocused, rededicated, and remembering who you are and why you're here. So be it.
And while we're waiting, I just wanted to, how come it's not going to me? Hello? If you are joining us, I want to say welcome. There's several people on here that's a little bit new. So Kendra, nice to see you on here, and Kishan. For those that are just coming in, this is my mom, and we just did, I love it. It's a powerful meditation, and to me, such a beautiful reminder to be able to send love to everybody and know that all of this is part of the divine plan. So it's pretty beautiful. So if you'd like to go back and watch it, feel free. It's on YouTube as well as Instagram. So it usually takes a few
Under
minutes.
Stacy Harder's name. Under Stacy Harder's name.
Yes. Oh,
so before we move on,
I said Esme fell asleep. It must have been pretty deep for her.
That's the mind getting out of the way so you can just really energetically accept it. And thank you, Michael.
And if you'd like,
and is there,
you're welcome to unmute yourself and speak up.
anything anybody wants to talk about? Were you able to feel the difference in the synthetic storm versus the natural storm? Anybody have any reaction to that?
I was loving them both.
Yes, loving them all, being able to discern what was going on. I was told that the China weather things that are going on was done by our heavenly friends in order to have China back off. Apparently, China had some really controlling things in the works, and so it just sort of knocks them down to their knees. So now they have to think about what's going on at home. Some of the other storms, if you notice, there was a lot of storms where there have been the demonstrations were synthetic. So being able to feel whether they feel synthetic or natural, I think is really powerful for helping you understand what's going on. And if you understand it, there's not the confusion or the fear that can come up.
And Esme said that she, with the synthetic, and she felt pain in her stomach.
I got a lot of like knots in and around my stomach. So
I can,
Everybody will feel it differently, but it is important to take a second just to investigate. That's how you learn discernment.
well, and for me, it's the natural storm just feels organic. It feels natural. There's a flow. There's like an energy, like Mother Nature kind of taking care of her. And then with the synthetic, it's like, oh, this isn't real. This is made up. Like it was very much, it had visuals along with the feelings, but part of the visuals too was like, I want to say almost like cartoon guys be like, oh, this isn't real. This is totally being made up. This is totally false. This is not real. This is synthetic. Don't put this in your body. This is not normal. And so it was like, just send it love, send it back to love. So it was interesting to see the little visuals with it.
Well, if someone is creating a synthetic storm, they have an agenda. There's something they want as an outcome, whether it's to break up the demonstrations, whether it's to manipulate a country. As I've said many times, when I first was investigating the storms and we had the Mississippi flooding, it was like weather patterns that had frozen over the Mississippi and just was raining like crazy, and the Mississippi was flooding. And I was told that it was designed to destroy the bread belt, that because that's where much of our food production in this country is created, that if they can make you hungry enough, that you'll sell your soul for a loaf of bread. So recognize there's always an agenda with those artificial ones. And the more you love them, the more that disrupts the energy of their control and manipulation.
And one said the natural storm felt calm, and then Mayfer said also, it didn't feel well, the synthetic. She started to cough. And hello, beautiful. And
Jennifer said their stomach was constriction, as she felt a constriction. So the idea is not, again, not to judge it good and bad. It's to just understand that we have things going on that are natural and things that are going on that are manipulations of natural. And the more you can identify it, then the more you know how to handle it, to address it, to deal with it. And then you'll also be able, as you learn to discern these, the more you can tell when you get these thoughts coming in, whether they're natural or whether they're synthetic, because that leads into what Jennifer wanted to talk about, was the emotions. My emotions are all over the place. And I'll go back to when I was in California, helping Stacy move out of California, that when I got into California, I got a headache, and I kept that headache until I left California. And I never get headaches, and I haven't had a headache since I left California. But I know 100% that they were beaming something around California, whether it was intentional or by accident. And I said a byproduct of something else that's going on, but that place is toxic. And the energy is very, very hard on your physical structure. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing the mass exodus out of California. But I could not stay there. And I've been to California many, many times during the time that Stacey lived there, and never had a problem before. But literally, it was toxic the entire time I was there, and I was happy to leave it. And may or may not ever go back to California because it was so hard. But if you recognize that energy stimulates everything, that I can beam an energy to you that can stimulate an emotion. So some of the emotions that are coming up for people, as Jen says, that our emotions are all over the place, some of them are synthetic. They're not yours. They're not coming up from you. They're coming to you and causing you. Because if I can get you in a state of distress, you're much easier to control. As again, for the people who've been following for long, I hate repeating these stories, but they're so important. But in my 10 years of being in politics, I went to many, many trainings, and invariably at each one of the training schools, they would have classes on how to get your constituents in fear. Because and they would say this with words, they weren't even embarrassed. If I can get you in fear, I can control your vote. And so a lot of the emotions coming up are designed to make you less empowered, to get you out of your balance and out of your stability, so I can manipulate you easier. You know, and we just have to begin to recognize it and stand in our truth and feel, is this mine or is it not? Some of the emotions coming up, again, emotions always signal a lesson. Listen, signal something that's important to you. So sometimes emotions will come up naturally, organically, designed to make you aware of something. So you want to look at that emotion and go, okay, what is behind this? What's causing this emotion? As I've said, and I'll pretend I haven't said it because there's new people on the calls all the time, so I don't want to sound redundant. But as a aging person, I sound like I don't remember what I said if I just keep repeating myself. Stacy's got her finger up. What does this finger mean?
Well, I'm asking a question. Mayfer would like to know how can I know if the emotion is mine or not mine?
This exact same way we did with the storms. Your solar plexus or your heart, whatever feels like the core of your essence. For me, it's my solar plexus. So I just imagine holding the energy of that emotion or that experience and putting it in my solar plexus. And then how does my body feel? And then I take another emotion and put it in, how does my body feel? And if you begin to really understand your body's interpretation, you'll know whether there's constrictions and there's unpleasantness, which says this isn't coming from you, it's coming to you. You can put up your energy bubble that keeps anything away from you that you don't need to experience, but it comes comes through practice. I'm trying to think of, there are people who developed their mouth to such a point they can taste wine and they know exactly what's in it and what ingredients in it and how it all about it. They develop their palate in order to be able to really discern to a great deal of detail about what they're tasting. I have a friend who's owned several different Greek restaurants, and she can taste any food and know exactly what seasoning went in and how it was cooked and what kind of oil it was cooked in. I mean, she's got an amazing palate. I have another friend who's an artist who can look at any color and break it down to know exactly what pigment would go in to create that color. Now, I don't have either one of those skills. I can feel energy and I can discern energy. There's not a lot of market for discerning energy, except it's very practical in life once you learn to do it. But it's a skill that you have to practice. So as these feelings come up, as these emotions come up, take the time to ask yourself, is this mine? If it's mine, if I'm creating this, then you want to take and look at, why am I creating this? What is behind this? What is it stimulating in me? There's a part of you that's choosing this emotion in order to recognize, grow, learn from. As I've said, fear or anger, when you're in anger, it's always masking hurt and sadness. So if you're getting angry at someone, take the time, feel it. If it's yours, literally look behind it to what it is that's feeling the hurt. What sadness is coming up that I'm not wanting to recognize, not wanting to deal with, because that's where anger always comes from. And so if you learned how to get behind it, don't act in the emotion. You don't have to, slam things and break walls and hit jaws and poke noses. I mean, you just have to feel it and not act in it. But that emotion can be very important for your recognition and growth. If it's being shot at me, and believe me, I've had lots of things shot at me, it's like, whoa, where is this coming from? And ask yourself questions. Don't make statements like, boy, am I angry right now? Or boy, am I feeling blah, blah, blah. Don't own those, but ask yourself, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this? And you will be able to recognize those that are not yours, that are being sent to you in order to control you. And then you just don't send it back, love it, neutralize it. Um, again, think in terms of waves of energy. It's an energy that's coming. And so just love, add your own love to it, and it neutralizes the energy. Um, if you're going through a lot of changes, it's going to be stirring up a lot of old stuff. So take the time to sort it out. From my perception and my experience, many people just are in such a rush. They go, oh, I'm feeling it. And they never sit with it. They never make the space to look at it and say, where is this coming from? Why is it here? What am I to do with it? How can I grow? And especially if you have the same thing coming up over and over again, the universe is giving you opportunities to react differently to the experience, to choose a different choice in order to express your divine self. We're all being asked to step into our godness and to be our best self. But in order to show up as your best self, you have to choose it. And oftentimes we just choose to show up as our bitchy self or as our old self, or we go back into an old habit of feeling something rather from how we used to feel 10 years ago. And so you'll keep having those experiences until you can recognize that every experience, every event is an opportunity to show up in your best self suit.
And as I said too, that's something I've been working on, to analyze the feelings instead of ignoring it. And one of the things that I would do
All right, I'm going to stop for a second. Let me stop there. Analyze the feeling says it's coming from mind. The mind analyzes. You do not want to deal with it from the mind. You want to come from the heart. The mind makes up stories. The mind fills in blanks. The mind creates a backstory, a reason, a rationale. The mind is not one that you want to engage. You want to sit with it and feel it, not try to manipulate it. When you think about it, you're manipulating it. You want to feel it and then discern it. It's a completely different skill. If you're thinking about it, you're just empowering it. Now go ahead and whatever you want to say, Stacy.
Well, I was just asking if it's better now because there's some glitching. Apparently, okay, now we're back. Okay, good. It was flipping a weird thing where it has a recording in the top with a clock. It kept doing a weird thing for me too. So, anyways, there's people who's glitching. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Technology. Okay, it's good. So I wanted to also go into the emotions of stuff, and so I find this suit that we're in, our body, is part of our, I call it our GPS, or navigation system, to kind of move us through the ascension, that we are with this body as one, and that's how we come together in harmony. So one of the things I would say that is, first of all, if you missed what we said, I would say go back on YouTube and you can rewatch it if you want to hear it. But go in, and if you always are asking for truth, you're always asking for guidance and protection, then having other stuff coming into your system will be less. But if it still does, then it's obviously part of the divine plan. You're supposed to, and this is part of your journey, because your higher self always has you. But I find when I go into those feelings, like, where do I feel it? Like, literally, does it feel like it's a pinch in my chest? Is it a pull in my stomach? What is the sensation with it? And then when you ask if this is mine, it's usually very subtle and quick and clear, but we don't want to trust that. Usually we want to kind of question that. So let go of that and just trust whatever's coming up, and going with those intuitions, those first things. This is what you're getting. This is what you're hitting. I can feel the difference inside my system when it's not mine and when it's mine. And I also find I came here for helping. I know I signed up for a lot of helping to clear that with the collective. So if I find I'm feeling extra stuff, extra things are coming up, that again, I feel we got the easy button. Now is the intention times. Are you ready to let it go? Are you ready to process it? You ready to alchemize it? That there are no accidents. And especially with light workers, I feel that we've come into so much stuff just to help clear that collective, that this is what we're going through now. And I do feel that it's not by accident if a lot of new stuff is coming up, or a deeper layer to the journey that you've gone through. When you had, now there's stuff coming up, you're like, I thought I worked through a lot of those traumas. I thought I worked through a lot of those things. In my opinion, part of that ascension too is when we're in that higher consciousness, you can no longer carry the heaviness of what's keeping you in the 3 dimensions. So if something is no longer serving you and you're ready to let it go, and you've made the intentions, I want to live my highest self, I want to live my highest life, I want to live more loving, I want more compassion. Well, sometimes when we make those statements, how you learn patience is not always what you think. Oh, I'm just going to be gifted with patience. You usually be tested in those kind of things first. And so sometimes it's us just bringing in the lessons. But again, there's no accidents. So if you can love everything and allow yourself to go through those questions, allow yourself to really feel it, and then alchemize, change it. Okay, once you can see the lesson, see the gift, just choose to release it, choose to move through it. But like Gen C was talking about earlier too, like it is legit. There's stuff coming up that I'm like, I thought I was through all that. And so I've said, my opinion is like, we're almost in like the wash machine where I thought, okay, all the work's been gone. We went through the shadow work. We went through that. That was like the wash cycle, but forgot there is this amazing cycle of the rinse and the spin. It's like, we're like going through a lot of stuff. And then the spin is like, it's just pulling it out. It's like, whether you're conscious of it, you're aware of it, if you've intended to let go of all the things that no longer serve you, well, then guess what? You're gonna have to let go of things. So energetically, emotionally, physically, all of that is connected. And so to me, it's also not by accident. There's a lot of stuff going on. Even in the planets, there's like 7 planets in retrograde. Mars just went into Virgo. Like there's so much. It's the first time they've been together too, Mars and Venus in like upright positions. There's so much happening on so many levels. And now one of those levels too is to be able to see truth. It's like Mercury, where Mercury's positioned, it's like shining the truth in what's really happening. And so if you see that's coming out a lot in, mask, no mask, this, like the stories, no matter what, it just changes. Even though if you start to go into logic and start to go into things like, well, that's interesting, then it's like you come back to that truth place. So anyways, that was my tangent.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add or ask or say? Or
there's a comment here. Speaking of ascension, it says David Wilcox says that we are approaching an ascension moment where we are to shift as a planet through solar/cosmic moment. You want to comment on any of that?
Well, obviously, David Wilcox perception. I don't see it quite that black and white. If you think in terms of a thermometer, you can read it as centigrade or Fahrenheit, and it's in degrees. So if you have, say your room is at 73 degrees, and then you open the window and it's cooler outside, then it'll move to 70, maybe 72 or 71. If it's cooler, if it's warmer outside, it'll go to 74, 75. It's just a gradual movement, and it 1 degree at a time oftentimes. Well, our ascension, our vibrational raising is what the ascension is also going on. It doesn't stop. It doesn't turn on at 6 o'clock and turn off at 7 o'clock like a garden hose. It is always in operation. And our thoughts, actions, deeds, every aspect of who we are determines whether we move up a degree, up a degree, up a degree, or down a degree. Anger, hurt, judgment, blame, shame, self-punishment, rigid thinking. I mean, all of those lower vibrations cause our energy to go down. So we can go through a descension right now as well as ascension through whatever we're choosing to do at every moment. So when we are being loving and kind and compassionate and grateful. Um, those are the key elements for the ascension. We will get to a tipping point, but by and large, most of it are of us won't be noticing it. We'll just recognize that I'm happier now. I'm more at peace. I'm more in joy. I'm more in balance. And that really is the raising of the vibration. And just as we can call the temperature by Fahrenheit or centigrade, we know it's the same thing. They're just measured differently. We can talk about frequencies, or we can talk about dimensions, and they're just different language for the same kind of frequency readout. When we get to the tipping point, um, it's sort of like that 100 monkey that Kenneth Keys has talked about and others have talked about. And it was a study done, I think, in the 50s off the coast of Japan, where they were given these rhesus monkeys, little chunks of um, sweet potato, but they would put sand on it. And so some of the monkeys discovered they could wash the sweet potato sand away, and it was easier to eat the sweet potato. And so they would do that, and gradually they taught other monkeys how to wash their sweet potatoes. And gradually more and more monkeys are washing their food before they ate it. And there was a tipping point. They don't know exactly what the number was, but it's called the 100th monkey. But at some point, enough of those monkeys washed their food that it somehow entered that collective consciousness in all of those monkeys on other islands that had no exposure to these monkeys, all of a sudden started washing their food. And that's the tipping point for me. Whether you call that a cosmic moment or a solar moment, I don't know, and I don't care. But there'll come a time where enough people have bought into this love and light and compassion and gratitude. And gratitude isn't something that you write down 3 of each night. About 3 things I'm grateful for. I mean, that's a starting point. But when you're living your life in gratitude, when you can be grateful for the challenges in your life, and you can see the challenges as being a great gift, that's when you're living in gratitude. I'll never forget one of my trips to Egypt. If you've never been to Egypt, you ought to go. But they drive like maniacs. And so I'm in this vehicle, and there's probably 3 or 4 lanes on the road, but 6 lanes of cars. And they don't stay in their lane. They're wherever they want, including on the sidewalk. And we're going 100 miles an hour over this bridge, and these incredible traffic and horns honking all the time. And all of a sudden, this taxi stops. It just stops as these cars are crashing around it. And so he's going, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. And you could tell he was really joyful. And I thought, no, Alhamdulillah is a word that sort of means praise God, yay. It's a celebratory word. It's like, no, this is not an Alhamdulillah. This is not a good thing. It goes, oh, yes, this is a very good thing. You're safe, I'm safe. And he pushed the car off the road, and he said, if it didn't happen to us, it could have happened to someone else that wasn't as lucky as we are. And I mean, his whole mindset was gratitude for this, what we would see as this very unpleasant circumstances. And someone else may spend the next 4 hours telling everybody about this harrowing experience they had. They certainly wouldn't have seen it as a gratitude moment. And yet, until we get to that point, we're not there. But when we can live our life in gratitude and in love, and you don't have to be reminded to love someone who's, as they say, the Karen or the person who's cutting you off in traffic, that it happens automatically. That you don't have to be reminded to find joy and seek joy. It happens automatically. It's just the way you live life. And that's when you will have been there. That's when your ascension thermometer is registering very high. And as your ascension thermometer goes up, so does your access to skills and knowledge and ability and insights and all those other things. And that's why you're seeing the world differently as your ascension goes up. But we talk about awakening and ascension as if it's a one and done kind of experience. And I can assure you it's not. I've been playing with these things for 30 years and I'm not even close to the finish line yet.
It just
It's the
paused.
journey of the joy.
If you give me a second, because it's paused and ended our live. So let me post it and then I can go right back to live.
For those on Zoom, I think unmet means unmute. So if you have questions or comments, we always love them. Ta-dum, ta-dum, ta-da-da-da-dum, ta-dum, 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 dum. And thank you, Michael, for thanking everyone. That's gratitude.
Yes, I like that. Yes.
Are you ready? Can we play now, Stacy? Are we back on?
It's frozen, so it takes a second for it to unfreeze and let me go. See? Now it unfroze. All right.
Oh, Alhamdulillah.
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 Okay. And it says checking connection. So hopefully it'll
I don't know
go.
if you can see my easy button.
I just wanted to share one experience, if I may.
Yes. So
I
welcome to part 2.
I love the comment you said all planets are feminine, because I actually got to connect to Mother Earth one time and actually felt her breathe. She's a beautiful, beautiful soul.
Well, I posted on our little, for those who want to join our little messenger service, I posted in there the overshot of the trees breathing. And it was really powerful. I mean, where you just see this collective breathing of the trees. But yeah. And the Native Americans believe the drumming was the heartbeat of the earth. And so literally sit outside on the earth and you will begin to connect. Once you realize the power of that connection, it becomes something that you're one with. But it's a choice. Whether it's the little people and all the fairies and all that world, or the trees and the beaches, or whether it's the earth herself, it's all a phenomenal experience.
All right.
Can I go ahead, Stacy?
We are officially back. We only have a couple of people that were on back, but welcome back. It kicked me off. It started to give me the 2-minute countdown, and I was about to say, okay, we have a minute and a half left, and then it just ended. So, yay, Instagram. I don't know why it put 1 hours back. Let's put the limitations again.
I don't know. All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments they want to make for, especially the people in the Zoom room?
The Zoom. Come and give me some of the Zoom. No.
Reactions, feedbacks. I really like reactions and feedbacks. Jennifer, did you have anything to add about the emotions?
And Nelsie, if you want to say anything, welcome. LD.
Okay.
Actually, hi everybody. I think the part when you said, be still and don't listen to the noise in your head really kind of rang true for me, because when there's so much chatter, you can't focus and you're not in a calming place. So I can relate when you said, calm down and listen to your soul, because that's really going to give you the true answers. It's the hard part of, quieting the noise is the difficult part.
Well, we've spent so much time empowering the mind. And
right.
It's about getting the mind to work in harmony with all of our totality. That's very important. And the mind, if we understand the mind's function, I've done workshops on the mind versus the body versus the soul. The mind is the creator. So when you think something, you are in an active state of manifestation. When you are, when you're creating that story, when you're putting the pieces together, that analyzing and synthesizing, that's the mind doing what it does and does it well. And we want an empowered mind. We do not want to stop the mind from being the best it can be. But it's not the truth teller, it's the story creator. If we want a story, if I'm writing a good fiction novel, I want my mind to be thinking about characters and plots and how they interact in the dialogue. That's the mind's job.
Right.
But if I'm really wanting to know truth, to really feel the truth of the situation, the truth of what I know to be truth, then I have to listen and I have to bring truth in from my soul and from my body. The body is discerner. The soul, well, again, I use an Egyptian analogy. When I go to Egypt, I've been there over close to 30 times, so I could do the tour myself and give more spiel than what the Egyptologist does. But I always hired Egyptologists to give us their version of what's going on. I hire someone who's an expert in that aspect of Egypt. That's not the part that I love. It's the energy and the awakening of the consciousness and all those things. That's my specialty. But I hire someone who's been there, who knows these things, who knows how to manipulate and move through confidently in the Egyptian culture. That's our soul. Our soul has been there. Everything we're doing, the soul has chosen and guided. And the more we can listen to our soul, the more it can take us effortlessly to whatever point that we want to go to. And so listening to the soul is like listening to a wise guide, someone who's taken us through the jungles and knows exactly where we need to go through the jungles. The mind doesn't. The mind is the creator. It's sort of working in the moment. The body is a discerner. It holds on. It's the repository. It takes, but the soul is the one that knows the path we're on more than anything else. So if we have to listen to the soul to say, okay, you're going to go down this street and you're going to do that. And you're going to, I was going to my sister's house. I wanted to surprise her. And she lives in Henderson, Nevada, which is just one of the suburbs of Las Vegas. I got to the airport. I rented a car. It was free GPS. I had no idea where I was going. I had been there before, like years earlier, but I literally rented a car and I'm going down the street going, okay, which feels right? It feels right to go this way. And I did an intuitive guide right to her house in Henderson, Nevada. And each time I still go to her house, I go, I'm so impressed with me for being able to do that. But it was really required me to listen to my inner guidance at a very clear level. That's really the best state to live in all the time. Just listen to the guidance. What's the next step? And if we don't, it's okay, because we're here to experience. So whether you make a mistake or you go directly to your destination, it's irrelevant. They're both learning opportunities. They're both opportunities for us to show up as our divine best self.
I wanted to put in our loyal viewers had said that last week, we were going to talk about compassion. So there was a question and then also a reminder of, yes, they're going to talk about compassionate today. So
I think I have a little bit, because I said it's one of the big things. Just like gratitude is very, very important to be able to live in gratitude all the time for everything, good, bad, and different. The challenges, those things are part of our opportunity to be grateful. And compassion is an understanding from the heart of of everything that's going on. When you are compassionate for yourself, it's just allowing yourself to be your divine self, whether that's perfect or imperfect as you judge it. It's just allowing it to be. We tend to enable as a society. We're a society of enablers. Here, let me make it easy for you, even if that easier isn't good for you. Oh, she's feeling bad. Let me make her a cookie or give her a cake. When Stacy or Carrie were little, I don't know what it was, but I was upset about something and I was crying. And so one of them said, "Here, Mom, here's a cookie. It'll make you feel better." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I've taught them how to stuff food already, to use food to cover up emotion. But just being accepting of yourself exactly how you are, including being imperfect, not feeling you need to make it easier, not feeling you need to make it harder, not trying to blame, shame, or justify what's going on, but just to accept it with love. The same thing for other people. If you can't have compassion for yourself, you cannot and will not have compassion for others. You may think you do, and you may at a surface level, but you cannot get down to the deeper levels of compassion if you can't have it for yourself. And compassion is really a level of an understanding and acceptance at a very deep level. We'll leave it for questions. Anybody have questions or comments or examples?
And if you're on Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. It always has a delay on the chat, so it'll be a second before I.
And if you're not on Zoom, you're welcome to dial in and get on Zoom. But if you have, let's say you have a day where you're human and you're being a bitch and you're judging other people, and you've had those Karen moments, if you beat yourself up for that, that's not having compassion. It's just allowing yourself to say, okay, this is a human day. I can do better than this. So I'm going to put on my super suit and show up as my higher self in the next moment. It's just accepting yourself how you are. And the same thing with someone else. You don't have to have compassion for a 2-year-old. They're 2-year-olds. Whatever they do is going to be fine. But when you're dealing with a 32-year-old or a 52-year-old and they do something, we tend to be very demanding. How can they do that? She's no better than that. Why are they blah, blah, blah? And we get into this head stuff of expectations and judgment and all the things, rather than go, this is the experience they're having now. And just accept it with love. And if you can get to that point, compassion can free you of a lot of icky situations. Because the more you develop compassion in this world, the more when you leave this world and you do your life review, the more you're going to have compassion for your own mistakes in your own journey.
And there's 2 people that unmuted
And
them.
Claudia, you made yourself visible. I know. So who'd like to go first?
Well, I have a question about that. So like if you have
Okay.
like just like, a very ingrained personality, and you're having you have a hard time having that compassion, like how do you generate it when you're having a really difficult time generating that feeling for someone else?
Well, first of all, that no one has an angry personality. That's the first flaw in that logic. You can be angry and you can express a lot of anger, but it's because you've got a lot of unaddressed sadness and hurts that needs to be gone back and explored and released. Anger issues are always born out of hurt and sadness, and I've yet to find an exemption from that. So that's my truth. And so our personality has been created by our soul, and it's something that stays with us forever. John the Baptist had a very almost strident this is the way it is, do it this way or get out of the way. The Messiah's coming and you better straighten up. And this is what you got to do to straighten up. I mean, he wasn't a soft and kind and gentle personality, but he wasn't angry. He was very direct. He was very forceful. As you move up this vibratory ascension ladder, who you are will become much more distinct. So that if you're a gentle, loving being, you'll become more gentle and loving. And if you're not, you'll become much more in your face the way you are. But it isn't, those anger and those emotions are not personality. Those are choices. You're choosing to have this anger, and men choose it more than women because it's very macho. It's not macho to show your vulnerability, to show your hurt, to show your sadness, to show your wounds, but it's macho to be angry and poke you in the nose. And so recognize the personality is different than the emotions you display. Emotions are a choice in how we express some of the things in our life. So now say that again with leaving out that, because I've already forgotten the rest of your question, but because I was taken back with the personality and it's angry.
So how do you generate compassion when anger is, in you? Do you start to look at like what sadness and hurt is behind the anger and like break it down, or do you just have a different way?
All right. First of all, you set the intention. That's what and I would do that. I'm a big believer in writing. Writing is a therapy for me. And so I would start by writing out my intention. As of today, I'm going to recognize and move through my anger to get to my true issues and be able to release them in love and light. Something along that. So I'd set my goal. This is where I want to go to. And then I would begin the process by asking myself questions. There's always a part of you that knows everything. Why am I angry? Where's all this anger coming from? It's usually not where you think it is. For instance, when I had the childcare centers, I had kids a couple times who accused the center of sexual abuse going on at the center. And the parents would come to me very upset. And I said, I'm certainly not saying it couldn't happen here, but I don't think it did because of these preventions that I put into place. So let's take and look at the child's behavior. Let's look at where it's coming from. And oftentimes, in fact, in every case that I'm aware of, the child used the center as the focus of their situation because it was safe. So I'll be angry at someone who's safe to display my anger rather than become vulnerable at showing my anger or the situation with the sexual abuse to my uncle or to someone who my family may react differently to. And in every case, we were able to unpack that child's behavior to get to the real situation. And so oftentimes what we think we're angry at is not even in the playing field. So unpack the bags first. Who am I angry at? What am I angry at? Why am I angry? And just write out the question and then immediately begin writing out whatever comes to your head, whatever comes to your heart. Just write it out and then chain it. You're angry at such. Well, why am I angry at such and such and such? And just keep chaining. But it takes time. You have to sit down and give yourself 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And that's where we don't usually do it. We're too busy. We got to get to this and we got to get to that. So we never take the time to really unpack it. And then, when you're talking about compassion, once you're unpacking some of this anger, just say, and I'll use your name in this example, and I'm writing this to myself. But I would say, Claudia, I love you. And I realize that you have hurts that are unaddressed. And it's my job to help you deal with those hurts but I love you just the way you are. And I really want you to find the love you deserve. And so that's how I would show compassion to myself in this circumstance, in this situation, and just acknowledge it. If I just think it, somehow it just goes into the air and then I get distracted. But if I'm writing it, it becomes a commitment to myself. And then you can have a journal just for you and your notes to yourself. I have a full file cabinet drawer of just the binders that I wrote to myself when I was beginning my journey. And they're very special to me because I can go in there and read and still capture those feelings and those lessons and those knowledges from decades ago. So make it special, but make it a time where you really commune with yourself.
Thank you.
We have a few questions on Instagram, but for some reason it's glitching. I don't know why. Technology.
Well, don't empower it. Just go ahead.
Okay. Well, I can see when it's doing it, but I don't know how to stop it. Okay. So there's a couple questions. One is, to feel compassion for me or for other will free me from judgment, ?
I think it's the other way around. I think you have to free yourself of judgment in order to express the compassion. If I'm judging them, for instance, the homeless, I'm looking at these images of the homeless on Venice Beach, for instance, and this is an example. It's not really. I can look and say, well, if they just get a job, and if they would just do this and that, then I can't show compassion because I'm already judging them for being whatever they are. Rather than if I just look at them and accept them as they are. Unconditional love is the opposite of unconditional judgment. Unconditional love means unconditional acceptance. I just accept them the way they are. And then if I accept them the way they are, I can have compassion for their journey. You know, what have we done as a society that makes them feel that living on the beach in a tent is the way they want to spend their life? That being high on drugs, because you see the needles all over the place, is the state that they want to live in. What makes them want to avoid? And so I can feel compassion and explore their experience without judgment as part of my compassion. And
Okay.
the same thing I would use with me as well.
Pause for a second. I think they can't hear us at all, so why don't I just restart it? Is that okay?
What's the other question?
Okay, I'll read that real quick. All right, so the other question is, they can't hear you. It says, how limits plays with compassion.
Limits? LAMITS? Okay.
And then I think that's it, but I'm going to end this. Heart. 2. Post. Okay, so give it a second.
I would see any limits that you perceive is the residue of a third dimensional mindset.
Yes. So
In
hang on, Mom. Hang on. Okay. It says we're checking connection. Hopefully we're gonna go. Oh, look, Mayfer joined in. Yay! Okay. So we're part 3. We ended the last one because the sound, it was being glitchy. I don't know exactly why, but Mayfer just joined us on the live Zoom. So feel free, if you are getting glitches, if it's not going through, you're welcome to join us on Zoom. That Zoom is 428-733-218. And that is our every Thursday. That is our Zoom information. You're always welcome to get on live. So welcome back to part 3. And
just saying that limits of any kind that you perceive in yourself and others is a product of third dimensional thinking. I think at fifth dimension, we're unlimited. We're all one. So where does a limit set in? It just doesn't exist. And Michael says something about, oh God, I missed the boat. I'm the biggest crybaby there ever was. As your heart opens and you become much more in touch with the emotional, physical, spiritual part of you, you cry much easier. So I don't think you missed the boat. I think you're just very open-hearted, and that's a good thing. It really is where the world is going, and men are having a much more difficult time with this transformation than women because they have so much programming they have to overcome. So congratulations, Michael.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anybody else have a question, comment?
I've got a great story on compassion.
Okay.
There was a mother whose daughter was stabbed several times in a kitchen and died. She went to court to address the young man, and she says, you know you did it, but I forgive you. And he just literally cried down, and then she turned around and started a ministry for young men. That's compassion.
Yeah. Well, it's like, was it Pope Francis? So when he was, I forget which Pope it was, who was shot and nearly killed, and he went to the jail and did a papal blessing on the guy who shot him, and Nelson Mandela, what he was in jail for all those 25 years or however long it was. He always loved his jailers and got along very nicely. So we tend to think that compassion is a product of the events in our lives, but it really is always a choice. Gratitude, compassion, love. If you can get those three sort of entwined in every moment of your life, you're unstoppable. You are shooting up a vibratory ladder, and that's where manifestation occurs much faster. It's where we become aware of the divine consciousness that permeates all of us. It really is a very magic place to be. And it isn't a product of the events in our lives.
And Jen just had her hand up.
She did? Okay.
Yes, it's me.
Yay. How was dinner?
Good. Pretty good. So my thing is compassion. I think we spoke about it a little bit, and kind of where you're supposed to, that's judging, but like you have compassion for somebody, but then you're just supposed to like hold a space for them, but then you kind of say something that doesn't feel very compassionate to you. Like I said something.
Compassion has nothing to do with how they're reacting to you.
Yes.
A lot of times, the more compassionate you are, the more upset they're going to be. If you've got someone, my big thing is I blow kisses, just with or without my hand, I just blow kisses. And so if you've got someone who's flipping you the bird and you blow them a kiss, they're going to take it as an insult, even if it has no intention of the way you sent it. So when you're being compassionate, especially expressing it in some way, it has nothing to do with how it's received. That's their business. You just have to be real pure heart, and you have to come from that space that you know what you mean with that.
Well, and I feel like, Jen, what I heard in your question was, what do you do when you've done things or said things that you didn't necessarily mean, or that didn't feel right to you?
Yes, but I thought I was standing in my own truth, and there was a zillion probably rotten things I could have said, but I didn't. I didn't even cuss, but I ended up saying, and maybe this isn't a judgment, because to me this is a statement, but all right, so it's almost embarrassing to say, but I told the person they were a loser. And
yeah, that's called name calling. Yes, and it's a judgment. And what you have to do in that moment is being authentic. That's where you are. So recognize it. You still love yourself. You know, you don't have to be perfect on this planet. We're all here just exploring. And so was it your God self that said that? No, it wasn't. That was the lower self that was having an emotional sort of upsetness. And so that day you showed up at that level with that person in that event, and that's okay. The next time, make it a point of showing up at a higher level. But do you beat yourself up? No. Do you deal 14 Hail Marys and do penance? Not necessarily. You may want to apologize to the person if that feels right to you. But again, it's what do you feel authentically in that moment?
Well, I kind of thought it was something she needed to hear. And not that that's from me. I did check with somebody who is an alcoholic, you know, the AA, and they said that what they preach is that's probably what she needed to hear in that moment.
Well, and that's your mind creating that story, but nobody is going to make a difference by being called a loser. Now, because it's a global label that you're pinning on them. If you said something like, your drinking is going to destroy your life, that could be a statement of fact.
Mhm.
And that could be the same thing as the loser, but said with love and with an intention of helping them. No one calls someone else a loser to make them feel empowered. So,
What if
but
months go
that's,
and she's, you know, changing around her life and she says that's the best thing anybody ever said? Like, how do you know that that wasn't helpful in some kind of way?
You have to trust.
I don't know that. It's not my thing. It's yours. And if you were authentically in that moment, that's fine. Just go with it. Don't make any apologies for it. Don't, just be in that place. I took my older daughter to a therapist one time when she was a child, and I just got the creepy feeling from this therapist. And so he talked to both of us for a moment, and then he talked to her all by herself. And he says to me, "Well, I can tell you've got this kind of relationship because of blah, 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 blah." And I said, "No, what you're reading is I don't like you. I really have a hard time with you. It isn't about Carrie. It's about the energy that I have with you." And he was shocked. You could tell that no one's ever said that I don't like you before, but it was my truth. And I didn't say it to hurt him. I said it because that was the truth of that moment. And we never went back. So if you say something in that moment and you felt it was the thing that needed to be said in the moment, then let it go. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because she did.
Again, none of us have to be perfect.
Yeah, she came back and said a ton of things to me, but it was okay. Like I felt everything was okay. I didn't feel like I had to say anything else or defend myself. It was just okay after. So it was
Well, and a lot of times, yes, as we get closer and closer to spirit, we will be fed things. If you read my book, Perfect Power and Consciousness, where I talk about the verbal fast, that was one phase of 1 week of silence where I learned to get hold of my thoughts. And then once I recognized what I was thinking, because your thoughts are manifesting as well, then learning how to quiet my mind. And then once I learned how to quiet my mind, then I could feel when spirit was coming through me, which allows me to move forward 25 years to this moment, which everything that's being said is what I call a combined voice. It's coming from spirit through me to you, not being filtered by my mind. And so if I have to say something that's coming from spirit, I do, and without apologies. But because you're still thinking about it all this time later, and I don't know when that was, that might be, an indication that maybe there was a better way of handling it, or you felt there might be a better way of handling it. But at any rate, it's done. It cannot be relived. Just give yourself compassionate acceptance for that moment. And then in the next moment, show up in whatever form that you want. But our goal is to show up in our God self.
Yes. And I would also go back, Jen, too, is how did you feel when you were saying that? Because I think when we are getting messages from spirit or the divine talking through you, it feels very different than if it's coming from your head or if it's coming from you. And so the more you can tap into the energies and really just pause, how does this feel? Where is this connection? Does it feel good? Do I like it? Do I, want to keep it? And so you really get to feel where you're connected, when you're connected, and to what you're connected with. And to me, it's very powerful. But there's definitely times where it just comes out of me. You're like, whoa, but it feels very different than if it was in my head or in my.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And then Esme asked, how do I distinguish the difference between spirit and my own thoughts?
Well, I just explained what I had to do to get to know them. Most people don't have a clue of their own thoughts. They don't know what it feels like. They don't know what they are. And that's where I recommend a verbal fast, where you just don't talk. And it's not about communicating with your fingers or writing notes. It's about literally just putting your focus on the inside of you and hearing your thoughts. And and I was told to go 24 hours without saying a word and just focusing on my thoughts. And if I screwed up, if I talked, then to start that 24 hours again. Well, it ended up taking me a week to get through 24 hours of not talking. And I owned businesses, I had family. I told all of them, I'm doing the verbal fast. Don't expect me to talk to you, just unless it's really an emergency, I don't want to communicate with you. I put everybody on notice before I did it. And then literally you just pay attention to your thoughts. And so as my brain was thinking, because I'm not talking anymore, I'm feeling other people's energies, I'm feeling other people's thoughts, and I'm feeling what's going on in my head. And I began to be able to feel my own thoughts. And if I could give them a verbiage, it would be, they were like burlap. They were like linear, heavy, coarse threads, but you could feel them. They came in linear. When it was spirit, it came in like a silk scarf. Everything came in at once. It wasn't like a linear processing. And so and these are the words and examples I use. As you do it, you'll begin to have words to explain what it feels like to you, because all of you will use different words and different examples to describe it. But the important thing is to be able to know in your own head what it feels like. But I don't know of any shortcut. You have to begin to recognize what your thoughts feel like and know that every one of those random thoughts you're having are being manifested and contributing to the complexity of your world. And I can tell you that as sweet and kind and loving as I was, not every thought I had would be one that I wanted to manifest. And so then after I recognized how destructive my thoughts were and how muddled and how counterproductive they were, then I could quiet them so that I only thought the things that I wanted to create.
One thing that I've
And
actually done, one thing that I've done in the past, because I was finally able to hear those things and those thoughts, what I did is I named it. I gave it a person, I gave it a name. And I would say, and my name is Susie. So I said, oh, that was Susie saying that. That's not me saying that. So and that helped immensely to do that. And it made me recognize it even more and more and got better at it and better at it.
Yeah. In the mind workshop, we recognize, we have an animal or creature come to us as our mind. And then once you see that creature, you begin to be able to create a relationship with it. And that's, very powerful for helping you get your mind in order. So, yeah.
And I think it's a great start too, is to ask, okay, body, show me what it feels like when my mind is thinking. Let me tune into my mind. What does it feel like when it's you? Okay. Let me tune in. Okay. This is spirit of divine. Make it clear. How does this feel in my body? And it just, even energetically, just that shift in my body is like, ooh. But no two people are going to explain it the same because energy doesn't have words. And so that's where it's important to tap into you as an individual and to see it's not going to my screen again. It's just you. There you go. If you start to tap in and feel it.
Okay. I thought I was looking like I had big cleavage. I was checking it out, but it's my earphones. Anybody else have questions or comments?
Yeah, and I also think too, and you're so right on about the stories and everything like that. And once you're able to slowly dissect and slow the thought process down, is then you realize that came from traumas that you haven't healed.
Right.
Right. So
And
then
if
you're
you hear
able,
your mind,
so when you recognize that, that's such an advancement into the healing process. And then you become, and then it goes through these stages of morphing yourself to the wounded child, to the adolescent, to the adult, to the here and now.
and if you go through your life and like each year and write down all the things that you did that you need to forgive yourself for, then recognize how much judgment you put on yourself, because
Yeah.
it was just an experience. You don't need to forgive yourself. If you're feeling the need to forgive yourself or anyone else, it's because you put a whole lot of judgment on those events, and that doesn't serve you.
Right. You're in stuck. And then it brings you back to the past and worry about the future. So you're never going to get to the present.
And as long as you're judging it, you're
Yes,
descending in your energy.
correct.
And
Yep.
if you hear yourself telling a story, like, well, I said that and it needed to be said and she needed to hear that, and I feel justified in saying X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. That's your mind rationalizing and judging it.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And you know that your heart doesn't agree with that. That's
Right.
your mind giving you justification that you have to prove to yourself or some imaginary person in your head that this is okay, and she's doing this and he's doing that, and this is not fair, and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And keep a journal for, I say this at least 10 times every session. Jot these things down. You'll progress through them much faster and recognize you progress through them much faster when you're keeping a journal. When you're hearing your head talk, write it down. I'm hearing my mind justifying X, Y, and Z. So I know there must be something there for me to look at, because that's not a healthy behavior for me. So keep this journal with yourself. And when it gets full, you can either save it or you can burn it, because it served its purpose. But that's how you can tell your growth, is when you get around the same situation and you're not reacting to it the same way. You've shown up as a more evolved person and you react to it differently. If you come around and you do exactly the same behavior, then you haven't grown. You're just repeating the pattern.
And one thing, just a quick reminder, because like one of the comments is like, okay, I'm going to work on listening more, being silent. And I said, play with it. Because remember, the playful energy is more of the source energy. That working at it is more the mind. So be playful with it. Like, okay, make it fun, make it enjoyable.
And we're wanting to be lighthearted. You can't be lighthearted when your nose is the grindstone or whatever. So yeah, play is choice, active engagement, and fun. So make everything that you're doing in your spiritual world part of your fun.
I want to have some fun. Move my body on that one.
Well, we're going 4 minutes out of 2 hours. And so 2 hours is a great amount of time to spend together. And I'm like Michael. Thank you all for coming and being a part of our experience. And if before we close off, anybody else have anything they want to say or add? Otherwise, Laura, was that you that said that, or what? Michael,
Sorry, I just had background noise. Sorry.
I just want to say I love you and thank you for your
my
dedication
joy.
and your commitment to being just a source of light, because every time I see you and I see Stacy, it's just I feel grounded, I feel connected, and trust me that the work you're doing is helping others, and the universe will always, of course, you know this, return it back to you multiplied. So, but I just want to affirm and just express my gratitude for you and your time that you take to do this.
Well, thank you
Second
very
that
much.
too.
Well, thank you very much. It really is my job to do. I'm told that I'm like the jumper cables for the universe, that you know, you put a jumper cable on your battery to give it more boost. So like for light workers, I just let them shine a little bit brighter. So it's my joy, and I'm so happy to have this opportunity, because otherwise I'd be sitting here in Crown Point going, I don't know what to do. I got to do something. So this way I can feel like I'm being purposeful.
And
So
totally love
it's been
that.
my joy.
And if there's certain things that you are wanting to learn, I love being able to talk too, which is why I started doing it. Like, okay, Mom, let's go live and make it broader, because we were doing the conversations on a call. And I'm like, let's put it on YouTube. Let's put it on Instagram. So I love seeing our Instagram family live, because even on our recording right now on Zoom, we have at least 3 or 4 countries. And I love that. It just is like our soul tribe. It makes me so happy. But going into that, I have that times where I don't really know all the stuff I know. It's just so natural to me. So I'm not sure where other people are and what they need to know. So I love the questions and stuff. Is the same thing with Mom. So if there ever are things that you really want to dive into, please feel free to reach out and say, hey, hey, I want to learn more about this, or do the things, because I love sharing, I love talking, but you don't always know, because you're just where you are. So, and you don't know, you know.
And if you want to support the work, please feel free to do that emotionally, physically, or financially. This week I am, in a perfect world, listing my house for sale, and then I'm moving to someplace else. And so this is a week where I need lots and lots of love and light in order to make that happen. And Jennifer says she'd like to reach out and have a session. I'd love to give you a session. And the same with anybody else. If you'd like to do a private session, I'll be happy to do so. So with that, and then Michael volunteered to close with a prayer and a song. So if you'd like to wrap it up, and thank you for your kind words.
Before you go, if you want to just say Heather@Heather Harder is your email. If you want to email and reach out, heatherharder.com. My website is stacyharder.com, and you can reach out actually directly through my website. And you can feel free to like and subscribe. Go back and watch this on YouTube. And if you feel this is important, share it with your friends, because we like to have our tribe grow. And then, do you want to talk about your sessions real quick, or just price, so people online can say, oh?
I'm trying to think. Claudia, you've had a private session, haven't you?
Yes.
Would you like to share what your awareness of a private session is?
Yeah, I mean, you just like, I mean, you tune into my energy, and I mean, you're extremely perceptive. So, you know, everything you said was just dead on. And I like this kind of no frills approach, you know, just like really very,
Yeah.
very direct and to the point session. So I mean, I loved it. I think I'm about ready for another one, actually.
Okay. Jennifer, you had a session, didn't you? So already, so you want to share your perceptions?
Yes, I think it was about 2 years ago, and it was unbelievable all the things that you hit on, and yeah, it was just profound. And so I can feel now that I'm about there again, and I need that little bit of insight that helps so much. Yeah.
And that's really what it is insights. In all situations, you're in charge of your life. But sometimes if we can look at something from another perspective, it allows us to see it differently. And that's really where the power is. So if anyone would like to either gift a session to a friend or have one themselves, please feel free. Moving is expensive, so it's nice to have the boost.
Simon, then. Wonderful.
Anybody else have a session they want to talk about? Otherwise,
You said you're
so
gonna.
Michael,
We were gonna do a session soon.
and do recognize when I do the sprinkles, they're like little mini sessions. And every third or fourth Thursday will be sprinkles, because I really liked last week. It was just all sprinkles. We were on the phone a long time with just sprinkles. So, but you've got to be on the Zoom to get a sprinkle. In fact, someone called them a sparkle, and I like that too. They were just little sparkles. So anyway, I love you all. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for your support on behalf of Stacy and I. And Michael, bring it home.
Okay. Dear soul, heart, and mind of Love, Peace, Harmony Soul Song, I love you, honor, appreciate you. We ask to bless all the beautiful souls and hearts and minds of the goddesses, and of course myself, all is appropriate, and to raise our love and light each higher and higher each moment as we go through this wonderful journey called life. I love my heart and soul. I love all humanity. Join hearts and souls together. Love, peace, and harmony. Love, peace, and harmony. Lula, lula, lee. Lula, lula, la, lee. Lula, lula, lee, lula, lula, lee, lula, lula, lee, lula. Love, compassion, forgiveness, peace, love, and harmony. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Breathe in, breathe out. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us again.
Yabba dabba
All right. So until next Thursday, have a wonderful existence. Remember, it's a game. Don't take it so seriously. And send light and love to everyone who needs it or wants it or you feel like. Okay.
Loads of love. Thank you for joining in wherever you are. You are
Bye,
never.
everybody.
Bye, LB.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.